You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record. Okay, we are live. I hope you guys had a wonderful break, or the Americans did who are listening. Tomorrow, Convicting a Murderer drops. A long-awaited documentary from Shawn Rech, who gave us A Murder in the Park and Whiteboy Rick. And it is starring now Candace Owens. And let's look at the trailer for it, shall we?
Select call from an inmate at the Calumet County Jail.
The man served 18 years in prison until DNA evidence cleared his name.
The Two Rivers man was convicted of sexual assault in 1985, but exonerated with DNA evidence in 2003.
So this is the infamous Avery lot.
Now, 2 years later, he again finds himself tied to a police investigation.
Accused of murdering Teresa Halbach on the Avery property.
Stephen Avery's 16-year-old nephew admitted his involvement in the rape and murder of Teresa Halbach.
The car is discovered just around the bend.
It was just this worldwide phenomenon.
I think they framed this guy.
I think he intended to crush the vehicle, but ran out of time.
Avery thinks the $36 million lawsuit he filed is why he's being targeted in this investigation.
1021 and 24 Main Street. Do we have Stephen Avery in custody?
Netflix made millions of dollars from making a murderer, but the filmmakers left out very important details, mountains of evidence that you have not yet seen. The blood vial.
The most egregious manipulation from the movie.
Interrogations.
That's when he started beating me because I told him that he's sick.
Cell phones.
And I saw melted plastic parts of a cell phone.
Interviews.
Her arms were pinned behind her head.
They made Stephen Avery look like a victim.
You believe your brother's guilty?
I don't know if I'm a suspect. I got nothing to hide.
I'm getting sick and tired of media deception.
Evidence piling up.
Why would they omit so many different things?
Why are you editing my testimony?
I am not going to make the same mistake that the filmmakers did.
Rearranging the testimony.
They delete a portion of it at the end.
How could they claim to care about the truth?
They all know that Stephen Avery committed this crime.
911, what is your emergency?
The evidence forces me to conclude that you are the most dangerous individual ever to set foot in this courtroom.
This is a collective.
So you heard it there. He's the most dangerous man ever to set foot in that judge's courtroom. But this doc has a little bit of history, because we did see a trailer for this a couple years back. And let's take a look at that original trailer for Convicting a Murderer. Actually, to call this a teaser would be actually probably more accurate. And so we have the same logo, the same look, but little different content.
Well, as I understand, I'm here to meet a truther, one of the people that support Stephen Avery and his cause.
Basically, I just want to ask him some questions about how he dealt the case, some of the stipulations that he put in, knowingly hiding evidence that could possibly help the defense in their case.
Loosely, might be called a debate, but I don't really see it like that. I see it as more of a opportunity to educate.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Andy, nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
I feel nervous, but I'm also excited because I think I can hopefully get some answers. On the 10th of November, did you know that it was human bones already?
Yes.
So where was the coroner? The county coroner.
give a shit where the coroner was. Coroner
that's
has
the law.
nothing to do
But that's
with
the
a
point.
forensic anthropologist.
But
right?
it's all related. Why?
It's all related. How is a coroner related to whether those are bones or not? You know what a coroner does? They walk in and they kick the body and they say he's dead. That's as far as their medical training goes. You're saying that you should bring in that person rather than a forensic anthropologist to tell me who that is? And I don't blame him. I mean, if I believed that what was showed actually happened, I'd be pissed too. What is there about Bobby that makes him such a better suspect than the guy who's got all the evidence pointed at?
That's an answer that you should have answered in the investigation.
I did.
You didn't because you.
I answered that investigation. I said, this is the guy who did it because all the evidence points to him.
I know that was
Bobby
the theory.
doesn't have any of this evidence, doesn't have any of the physical evidence, doesn't have any of the motive because he lied when he was sleeping. He's just as likely the murderer as somebody whose blood is in the car.
I would
Are you
find
smoking crack?
I would
That's
find
crazy.
Out. I would find out. You had tunnel vision. I know. I understand. You just said it.
I had tunnel vision.
Exactly.
I had the guy who committed the crime.
This is what you said. I have bones and blood here. I have possible stuff here. Let's go over here. You had tunnel vision.
Where have we ever heard that before, right? Tunnel vision investigation. The police had to solve the crime, right? It was a desperate situation. So I don't know, guys. So I've seen the first 3 episodes, and the reason why I saw the first episodes is that the director's people, Shawn Rech's people, were nice enough to reach out to this channel and say, do you want an interview? And I said, yeah, I'd love an interview. And they sent me the first 3 episodes, and I was like, what happened? What happened to Ken Kratz? Where is Ken Kratz? It's like, where's Waldo? That version of the documentary is long gone. And in Ken Kratz's place, it seems by the first 3 episodes, if things change, I'm just going, I will apologize, but it's called Convicting a Murderer. Where's the prosecutor? He seems to have written out of history. And I understand that Ken Kratz has his detractors, his non-supporters, mostly people who are Stephen Avery supporters. But he's out of this. And then in his place is Brenda Schuler, who really knows a lot about this case, but she's also the producer. And also, Candace Owens has now been edited into this as an investigator. So there's so it becomes very confusing because you're looking for someone to be the kind of host in this documentary. And they do talk to, Brenda talks to a lot of these Avery supporters and tries to discuss the case with them. And so far in the first 3 episodes, we have a lot of discussion of Stephen Avery. I'm sure we're leading towards and discussion of the way that Making a Murderer presented the evidence, but we don't have any of the real of the phenomenon, any discussion of innocence fraud. And Shawn must know, the director must know this very well, having directed A Murder in the Park, which is about the most sensational case of innocence fraud ever produced out of the Innocence Project, which is really out of the Medill Journalism School, Northwestern's Medill Innocence Journalism School, their Innocence Project. The students in the class investigated Anthony Porter's case. He was a man on death row in Illinois, and they investigated it from a position of innocence. In order to get him out of prison, they coerced All Story Simon, an innocent guy, into a false confession, got him convicted, and got Anthony Porter off of death row. It ended the death penalty in Illinois. So he knows about this intimately, and it's never discussed. It's just like, wow, Making a Murderer. It was shown over the Christmas holidays and everybody was home, so everybody watched it. It's not like, even though that they start convicting a murderer in the same way that the serial is begun, with the phone call. This is a phone call from Stephen Avery, just like this is a phone call from Adnan Syed, a prisoner at blah, blah, blah. They started in the same way, but no mention is made of the fact that America has a love affair going on with these kind of documentaries. And the fact that Convicting a Murderer took so long to get someone to produce, to buy it, will tell you how hard it is to get a documentary. Excuse me, I've been a little sick. To get, excuse my voice, to get a documentary like this out there. So what I'm asking is, so I basically, did I make a mistake? I pulled away from this interview because at this point, I don't know if I'm too far into the story. If I think that, but I think that innocence fraud, that story is central to this story, this phenomenon. And at a time living as an American and seeing our DAs be replaced one by one with another arm of the defense. So we are making our own, this movement is making its own kangaroo courts in America. And in so many blue cities, like the one I live in, New York City, we have Alvin Bragg as a DA, and he's just, his concern seems to be totally with the defendants and not at all with the victims or society, or the, I would say, society at large and the people of New York City and the outer boroughs, right? Actually, New York City. You know, what's going on here? I feel like we're in a crisis, and my question is guilt enough? Is saying guilt enough? I know that's a piece of it. So a piece of this fraud is obscuring Stephen Avery's guilt and presenting him like an innocent person. But it seems to go so much deeper. And the fact, and it seems to be a political issue, because the answer to mass incarceration, see, one answer that seems to be pushed out there is just let everybody go, or don't don't convict them in the first place. So they're putting in these DAs to just not convict anybody, not prosecute anybody. And we have this crisis of crime going on in America. And is guilt the central issue? That's what I'm asking in this. And same thing with Adnan Syed. Who's calling out his fraud? The fraud that got him out. What I mean by that is the fact that Marilyn Mosby, another DA, very much like Alvin Bragg, who was put in by Soros money and whose interest totally seemed to be Adnan Syed, met in a secret meeting. It's called an in-camera meeting, but there's no cameras present and there's no court reporter. So we don't know what was said between Marilyn Mosby and Adnan Syed's defense team, which is essentially the same thing, and the judge, all met in secret on the Friday before they let him out on a Monday, I believe. And nobody's calling out that the fraud that got him out. What's going on here? So my question is it enough to just say that these people are guilty and you missed this and that? To me, the main issue here is this love affair with this story we have going on. And a good place to start is to ask the question, let's talk about Stephen Avery's first, his wrongful conviction. Why wasn't the other guy, right? Why wasn't he prosecuted for this crime? Why wasn't anyone prosecuted for this crime if Stephen Avery didn't do it? Why is it just enough to get Stephen Avery out? Isn't the point to see the right person prosecuted? So I don't know. I mean, and Candace Owens there's such irony with her in this doc now that she supported the Tate brothers. So every time she's discussing Stephen Avery and his history of domestic violence and other kinds of violence towards women, it sounds so ironic. Like she'll say, well, victims, it's not so easy for victims to leave. And, all I keep thinking about is her position with Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate. So I don't know if that's my interest. I don't know if other people will catch that it seems quite odd for her to be careening forward as a victim's advocate in this, when she had no problem naming Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate's victims and protecting her abusers, her past abusers. So I will be returning to the subject. I think I'm going to take a quick break, meet you on the other side, but I'm going to keep it really short today. I don't have much of a voice, but I just wanted to start a discussion about Convicting a Murderer, and I hope you watch it tomorrow when it comes out on Twitter. I think the first episode is free to watch. First couple episodes, maybe, at least the first one, and see what you think. But there's a lot of people, a lot of Avery's supporters in this, a lot of discussion between non-supporters and supporters. There's some people who changed their mind, which I always think is very interesting. I'd be interested to hear what they have to say. But as is, I was so frustrated with this documentary, incredibly frustrated, because I felt like the elephant in the room is the fraud, and nobody's talking about it. And if they talk about it, if they devote an entire episode to it, and secondly, where's Ken Kratz? Where are the legal team? So it seems like we're seeing kind of like the D roll, right? Earl Avery, his wife, and mostly Avery supporters. But I would like, obviously I know how hard it is to get Laura Riccardi or any of the main players on the other side to talk. I recognize that. But what about people, what about the guy who convicted him? Kind of important, I think, no? If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. So my frustration really is that I feel that America is in a crisis. We're losing our entire legal system. And once that goes, that is basically the barometer of fairness in our country. And I can't even imagine what our country is going to look like when our courts go. And that's how I feel like we're hanging on by a thread. And this fraud is just exploding and exploding. one after another. It seems like I can't even keep up. There's like a new innocent person that I have to investigate. I have to basically try to solve a solved crime, look into it, right? Every day there's a new person and a new documentary, and the documentary as a form is really the tool used by this movement to sell this fraud. It's the first line of attack. Because you can say anything in a documentary, not so in court. So you tell me. I just feel like just at the edge of frustration, because I don't know, maybe it was enough a couple years ago to say guilt. Maybe that's edgy enough. But I don't know. I'm just extremely dissatisfied, and we'll talk about, as the episodes come out, we can talk about them one by one. But I just wanted to come on and start the discussion today about convicting a murderer, and generally the subject of innocence fraud in general, and say, why isn't anybody talking about this? Even the few people that really know about it. Why isn't anyone talking about it? Why is this pretty much one of the most taboo conversations you can have in America right now? Why? So let me know what you think when it airs tomorrow. Believe it's free to watch on X. I don't think I'll ever get used to calling Twitter X. I don't know about you, but it's just incredibly. I was really hoping for something a little bit more comprehensive. I've only seen the first 3 episodes, so maybe it all comes together in the end and I'll feel really silly for speaking too soon. But I don't know. All right. Thank you, Hey Manny, for the $1.99 super sticker. I appreciate it. So that's what I have for today. I will be back to discuss the first episode in more detail, but let me know what you think when you watch it, and I'll see you back here sometime soon. Have a great one, everybody.